we will move to talking about a big news that dropped on Monday in Jarrett Patterson's injury. Patrick, tell us about this, the impact here, and what you're expecting moving forward for Notre Dame. I mean, just a big blow losing your center at this point in the season.
Yeah, it's, I mean, obviously not ideal. The guy had started 21 straight games, which, I mean, in a vacuum sounds very good, but put on this Notre Dame line, it's the fewest number of career starts for any of the five. And yeah, he's not going to play the rest of the year, and that's tough. I would at least guess, or at least to me, I would think the guy who deserves the first look is Zeke Correll, the sophomore early enrollee, I believe, in the 2019 class, top 150 overall recruit. He's been basically working exclusively at center and being kind of groomed for that role whenever Patterson leaves or moves to another position or whatever. I would imagine, just considering the specializing that he's put in there, that you would give him the first look there. And then that's what I would do too, just because it involves the least amount of shakeup. And I know Josh Lugg is the first guy off the bench for multiple positions. We've seen him at right tackle in a couple of the recent games, just filling in for injury. Or right tackle on Saturday, filling in for Robert Hainsey. Right guard, I should say, for Tommy Kramer against Georgia Tech. So kind of that spot starter, put him wherever. He took reps at center in a spring practice or spring practices a couple of years ago. But to me, I would go with the guy who you've kind of specifically held here for that role and see what he can do. He's part of a really strong offensive line class they signed in 2019, and I mean, he's played in a couple of games this year, just in mop up duty and garbage time and whatnot. But I would imagine that that's the route they look toward. And to me, what I'm most curious to see with this injury is who replaces him. But if you left the decision to me, well, besides that being a catastrophically bad idea, I would go with Zeke Corral here.
That makes sense. Just because I was anticipating next year that Jarrett Patterson was going to move out to one of the tackle positions because Liam Eichenberg is definitely going to be in the NFL next year. I imagine Robert Hainsey, even though he has the option to come back, he will as well. Jarrett Patterson came in as a left tackle prospect and had never played center in his career. In fact, the entire starting offensive line all were tackles. They moved Aaron Banks to guard. They moved Tommy Kramer to guard because he co-started with Hainsey in 2017. So if Zeke Correll is going to be your center of the future, maybe he's going to be the center of the present now too. Uh, I'm not sure about Josh Lugg moving to center. Now, we did see him taking reps there in the spring of 2019. He has been called the Swiss Army knife by Brian Kelly in the line, in that he's the sixth man. He's the next man in for whatever purpose or wherever the need is the greatest. I sometimes have wondered, he's about 6'7", and the leverage part there at center, maybe that can get overrated there, but when you get a nose tackle under you and you're adjusting to a first time position, that could be quite an adjustment there. I would not be surprised to see Robert Hainsey, especially with the bye week coming up, maybe taking some snaps there as well, because then ideally you still have the great experience with Hainsey, and he knows all the line calls. He's an extremely smart football player. And then having Josh Lugg at that natural right tackle position. I think that is one more option that can be evaluated or looked at. It's a decision that Jeff Quinn and Coach Kelly have to make as far as who gives the best opportunity for this line to not lose the continuity and to have the best chance at making the right calls at center and everything else. Is Zeke Corral ready for all that? I don't know. We'll see if they have that trust factor there. He came in at about 270 last year, and he's about up to like 290 or so. But that's a position where if you get penetration and you get some push by the defensive line, that can create some havoc in the running game or create some problems anyway. So that's just going to be something for the coaching staff to decide is which five presents the best lineup in that offensive line.
If you're putting Hainsey at center, I think you're doing that only just because you like the experience and want to keep that and not risk anything with Zeke Corral there. I personally wouldn't touch that at all just because I think Hainsey's athleticism at the tackle spot, especially in this outside zone type of scheme where, I mean, so many times they ask him, all right, chip a guy, get to the second level and set up blocks there on these perimeter outside zone runs where he's getting way out there, 15 yards or so to pick off a corner or block a linebacker out of there or something, or a slot defender. I don't know that that's as much of a thing that he can do at center or as much of a thing that Josh Lugg per se would be able to do at right tackle. And that's not to say that Josh Lugg is incapable at all. But I mean, we're talking about a guy with plus athleticism at the right tackle spot and a big reason that's going to get him drafted, I think. So I wouldn't do that. And especially because then you're messing with multiple positions. If you're going to do that, I would just say, all right, stick Josh Lugg at center if you want the experience. That way you've just got that one spot that has the mid-season turnover. So if you want that thing of, okay, we want these older guys, I would just throw Josh Lugg in there at center. But now to me, if Zeke Corral is your center of the future, I don't know. I think this is a great spot to really give him a shot.
I think one thing we can all agree on, guys, is that whether Notre Dame goes with inserting Lugg in and maybe moving some pieces around or going with someone more unproven like Ezekiel, Notre Dame's in pretty good hands, right? I mean, this is offensive line. I don't know if Notre Dame really can go wrong here. I'm sure they could, but it's still just a good thing. Obviously Jarrett Patterson going down is a huge loss, but it's not catastrophic, Lou, because Notre Dame's just recruited so well on the offensive line.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily recruit pure centers. I mean, Sam Mustipher had never played center until he came here. I think like Braxton Cave was maybe the last one really who had that. Nick Martin came in as a tackle and guard, and he became a second-round pick at the center position. And, you can eventually adjust there. You look at Alex Bars. He played all four of the tackle and guard positions, and now he's starting for center at center for the Chicago Bears. So, it just might be too quick a turnaround. And I think the one thing that can't be overlooked is just the center snap exchange, especially in shotgun situations. Now at North Carolina or Wake Forest, you're not going to have that crowd noise and all where maybe you can't hear the signals or there's a silent count you have to go to, etc. So maybe that eases that transition, but still that center snap exchange, especially in the shotgun, it's not as easy as it always looks.